Hi guys, thanks for visiting my channel. Today we are cooking up homemade sloppy joes, totally from scratch. No manwich or canned stuff here. And who doesn't love a great sloppy joe, right? It's a quick, easy meal to put together and almost everyone loves it. And I'll bet that you have everything you need either in your refrigerator or your pantry. So let's get started. Okay guys, I brought you in close so you can see a little bit better. We're going to start by browning about a pound of good ground beef. Now, you can use whatever level of ground beef you want. You can use chuck, you can use round, you can use sirloin. I usually use sirloin or round. Today I'm using round. If you do use chuck, you will probably, because it has more fat content, you will probably want to completely brown your meat and then drain it. I'm using round, so I'm going to start adding my other ingredients now. So it just depends. If you don't mind all the extra fat, you can, and you're using ground chuck, you can go ahead and do what I'm doing. If not, brown your chuck, drain it, and then start with the other things we're going to talk about. So I just got a nice medium-high heat. And I start the browning process, and then I start adding my other goodies. So we're going to add, I have a whole sweet onion here that I've fairly finely chopped. And then I have a half each of a green and a red bell pepper. Now you can use any combination of peppers that you like, and even if you like heat, you could use a hotter pepper like a jalapeno or a serrano. But I've used, or you could use all green, or you could use all red, you could use all orange, whatever you like. I tend to like the half and half. I love the flavor of the green. It's a little more bitter. The red is a little more sweet, and I think the flavors really complement one another in the sloppy joe. So I use a half of a bell pepper of each of those. And I finally chopped them as well. We're just going to kind of stir that together. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some salt. I love using seasoned salt. You could use just plain salt here if you prefer. And we're going to add about a teaspoon and a half of salt. And then I'm going to add about a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cook down. It'll take about 10 minutes or so until my veggies are nice and tender and the meat is nicely browned. So when we get there, I'll bring you back and we'll start adding the ingredients to our sauce. Okay guys, our ground beef and veggies have been sauteing for about 8 minutes or so, and the meat is nicely browned and my veggies are starting to get tender. So now we're going to start adding the ingredients to make our sauce. So we're going to start with a half a cup of water. We want to turn your heat down to a medium-low. And we're going to add a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. I did want to mention that if you don't groove on all those veggies, or if you think your kids won't like all those peppers in there, you can always cut down the amount. You don't have to use as much as I did. I like that much, and I think it adds tons of flavor, but this is about a method. It's not like baking where you have to use exact amounts, so use what you like. So we're going to melt our tomato paste down in there, and then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. And we're going to add about a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, again to taste. We are going to add a splash of balsamic vinegar. About a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, something like that, just a splash. And then we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. And And then I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Now you can add whatever kind of mustard you like. And if you want, you can always add mustard powder instead. I love the Dijon. It just adds a nice depth of flavor in the background. And then last but not least, I am going to add 1/4 cup of my tomato jam. Now, if you weren't along with me for that, you might want to check out that video. We call it grown-up ketchup. So if you don't have the tomato jam, don't worry. Just go ahead and use whatever kind of ketchup you like. But you guys, this adds a lot of delicious flavor in your sloppy joe. So I highly encourage you to give it a look. So what we're going to do now is let this all get happy together. I'm going to get it all mixed together, and then I'm going to put my lid on, and then I'm going to let it simmer for 15 to 30 minutes. We just want all of our flavors to combine. We want all of our veggies completely cooked and tender. Now you want to keep an eye on it. We are going to cook it with the lid on it so we don't have too much evaporation, but if it starts getting too dry, you can always add a little more liquid. Just add a little more water to it, should be totally fine. So I'm going to get mine to simmering, and when I say simmering, I mean low. So you'll want to turn your heat down to low. You don't want it cooking very hard. We want all those flavors to meld together and just give it a nice, let it cook nice and gently. So that's what I'm going to do, and when we're done, I'll bring you back and we're going to add one more delicious ingredient. Okay guys, we are back. My sloppy joes have simmered for about 20 minutes or so. I did taste them, and they're delicious, by the way. And I did end up adding about 2 more tablespoons of water. So just kind of keep an eye on it, and it's all going to be up to you how sloppy you want your sloppy joes. So I did loosen mine a little bit more with about 2 more tablespoons of water, but other than that, everything seemed to be spot on. Look how beautiful that is. You are not getting that from a can, and it smells amazing and tastes great too. So one more ingredient, and this is completely optional, but I enjoy doing it. So I like to add about 1/2 cup of shredded cheese, and I'm going to be using pepper jack, but you can use any cheese you want. Cheddar is beautiful. You could do Colby Jack, you could use all Monterey Jack, you could use Swiss, whatever you like, you can use. And recently I've noticed, I'm sure others of you have noticed as well, I don't buy too much pre-shredded cheese anymore. I don't know what they're putting in it, but whatever they're putting in it to not cake and all that prevents it from melting very well. So I've started buying blocks of cheese and just shredding my own. So just a little tip there. I know it's so convenient to buy pre-shredded cheese, but it just doesn't melt very well anymore. So I shredded my own, and I'm going to sprinkle in about 1/4 to 1/2 cup, whatever you like. It's entirely up to you. If you want super cheesy sloppy joes, add all you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a stir and let that melt down into my sloppy joes, and then I'm going to bring you back and I'm going to plate them up for you. Okay guys, look at that. Who wouldn't want to eat that sloppy joe? And do you recognize these little gems? That's right, they were the homemade burger buns that I made into slider buns, and I shared that recipe with you, so you might want to check that out. Really, really delicious on there. So there you go, homemade sloppy joes. And it wasn't hard. Not much harder than opening up a can of something that doesn't taste nearly as good. So I really hope you'll give this recipe a try. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. And I did want to mention that you can use this for more than just sloppy joes. It is delicious on top of a baked potato. It makes a delicious pizza if you take some French bread and spread that across the top, and then cover it with cheese and pop it in the oven and let your bread crisp up a little bit and your cheese get all melty. You have a sloppy joe pizza. You could use it as chili dog sauce on top of your hot dog. Lots of ways to use it, and there's also lots of ways that you can change it up and make it yours. Use a different kind of vinegar. You could also use a little splash of wine in it. After you saute your ground beef, just put in a splash of wine and let that deglaze your pan and cook for a few minutes, and that will add a nice depth of flavor. So all kinds of things you can add to it and make it your own. And like I said, it's just about a method, so feel free to play with the ingredients and change things up for you. So thanks so much for joining me today. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the fun, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching, guys.